right, today we're going to show you how to check progress on teacher hand scoring for the interim assessments. I'm here at the MCS app portal, and I'm just going to type in CASP, and you can see here that we've got CASP staff. Now this is casp-lpac.org, casp-lpac.org, and if I come down here and click on interim assessments, I clicked on interim assessments, and then from here, teacher hand scoring system. And voila, all I have to do is log in with the permissions or username and password that I had provided. I should point out that, as you can see here, every year the state does reset your password. So you may be thinking, wait a minute, I know my password and it's not working here. We did send out new passwords this year, so if you can't remember your password, you can't find the email, you haven't used it this year, you can just reset your password, but don't keep clicking and clicking and clicking because the email hasn't come yet. It does take a few minutes and you need to wait it out, so just give it time to arrive and then follow the instructions when it comes, and you can look through this information here for additional help, okay? And then at that point, you can follow the instructions and log in. You're going to see all the different tests that you've administered. As a principal, I've got multiple tests, multiple grade levels, and I can already see how many students have items waiting to be scored. Now, if this doesn't jive, you're thinking, well, I should have more students waiting to be scored. You can think to yourself, well, they've already been scored or they haven't been tested. One or the other is true. They've already been scored or they haven't been tested. The other thing to think about is you may have students with more than one item to score depending on the test. For instance, on the read informational test at grade 5, they have 2 items per student to score, so it's something to think about. Another thing to think about and to remind teachers about is if they have items to submit. Oftentimes teachers or users, even administrators, will score items and then forget the last step. As you can see here, after you score an item, you have to remember to go back and click the checkbox one last time and hit submit. So these students, these 76 items, they will not receive a score in the California Educator Reporting System because their items have not been submitted to be scored. They have been scored, they have not been submitted. So as I go in here, let's go check these out. I see a list of students right here. I see who has been assigned to score them. Now, how does this work? They're assigned to the person who tested them. It may not be their teacher. It was the test administrator who tested them. Now, let's say something has occurred where perhaps the teacher of record is, or the test administrator is out sick and it's nearing the end of the hand scoring window. If you are the principal or any of the test site coordinators, you have access to assign students to someone else. You check those boxes next to the student and you can pick anybody from the list. You can write a note and hit assign and reassign those students to someone else. Now I'm going to show you here that if I select the number to score, I can see that there's the text on the left, and over on the right, there is the student writing sample. And up on the right, I want to show you one more thing. There is a rubric and resources button. If I click that, I have the ability to see the scoring rubric. 2 points, the response gives sufficient evidence, includes specific examples, adequately explains. 1 point gives limited evidence, includes vague limited examples, and so forth, and 0 points. So they can get a 2, 1, or a 0. But I may not know what that looks like exactly. So I want more information. So the great thing about rubrics and resources is that it also provides you exemplars, and a training guide. So if I click on the exemplars button, I now have the ability to download an exemplars guide. By downloading those exemplars, you have the ability, once you download that file, to see what does a score of 4 look like, see student writing samples, see the explanation of why that's a 4, multiple examples, see a 2, a 1, and a 0, not a 4. And that's really helpful to talk about with your team. At each grade level, these exemplars are available. There's also a training guide as well. So back to scoring, as I look here, I see the student writing sample. As I read through it, I'm ready to make my determination. I click the pencil, I enter a score based on what I'm reading here. I don't believe that there's enough evidence. I don't believe that the student really understood the prompt. And so I save the score. And if there's more than one item for this student, you'll see that there's a button to go to the other item in either direction. The other item was already scored. That's why I can't go forward, but I can go back to the other item. And that's it. So right here on the left side, to make sure that the student score gets submitted, I'm going to click the submit button. And then down at the bottom, you make sure that you hit the submit score. This is what we always forget. Now, as an administrator, if you see that there are a bunch of scores ready to submit, you can go through and you can do this for your teachers. You go through and you just check submit next to all of the students and you hit submit score. Hit continue, and this will push all the student scores through to the scoring system. Why does this exist? In some circumstances, at some schools, teachers may want to work as a group. They'll initially score their students and then reassign those students to a colleague so that that colleague can also read that student writing sample and maybe adjust the score or additionally score that student, and then finally submit that student for their final score. In this case, in reality, you only have one test administrator scoring the student and then just forgetting to submit the student for a score, and then the student never receives their final score in CERS, or the California Educator Reporting System. So it's really important as the administrator to be checking the teacher hand scoring system on a regular basis, just to make sure that on the home screen, the dashboard, we are watching the student count, the items that are still left unscored, and oh no, 74 items waiting to submit. So I can go in here and I can check for those items waiting to be submitted, and I can go through and actually submit those. So I see that there's 2 waiting to be submitted. I can actually reassign those to myself and then submit those. So that's it. I hope you have a great day.